There's a belief almost everyone carries into their own attic without ever questioning it, and it's the single biggest reason the same object can sell for $5 in one house and $5,000 in another. You probably think the older something looks, the more it's worth, that 100 years sitting on a shelf automatically means something. I believed that too for a long time, and it's almost completely wrong. Age is just a number sitting quietly in the background, doing far less work than people assume. What actually decides where something lands on that scale, $5 on one end, $5,000 on the other, comes down to a much smaller set of details that have nothing to do with how many decades have passed, and once you know what they are, you'll never look at your own house the same way again. Start with the belief that gets people the most. Most people treat a maker's mark or a signature like a nice extra, not something that actually matters. It's the opposite. Two objects can look completely identical, same shape, same color, same age, and one sells for scrap while the other sells for thousands. The only difference is a tiny stamp on the bottom that most people never bother to check. A Wedgwood piece is the clearest example of this. Real Wedgwood is spelled exactly that way, no extra letters. Counterfeits often add a letter to the name, and that single wrong character turns a confident $300 piece into a $2 curiosity in about 1 second. The country of origin printed near that same mark tells its own story too. Simply reading England usually points to before 1891. Reading Made in England usually points to after 1921. And the word royal appearing anywhere in a maker's name almost always points to after 1850. English pieces sometimes carry a small diamond-shaped mark too, used only between 1842 and 1883, and that shape alone can date a piece to within a few decades without any other clue at all. So turn the piece over tonight and actually read everything printed near the mark, not just the maker's name. Check for the word England or Made in England and look for that small diamond shape. 2 or 3 words most people skim right past are quietly doing the job of a 100-year-old paper trail. That same habit of trusting what something looks like instead of actually reading it shows up again with completeness too. You'd assume one nice piece from a set is worth roughly 1/10 of what the full set would bring. It's usually worth far less than that. A single antique teacup without its matching saucer reads as an orphan to a collector, even if the cup itself is gorgeous. A drawer of mismatched sterling silverware, sold off 1 spoon at a time, brings a fraction of what the same silver would sell for as a complete service for 12. Even a lid separated from its casserole dish can cut the value down to almost nothing. Collectors aren't just buying the object. They're buying the whole story sitting together, and a story missing half its pages is worth much less than one that's intact. Completeness has a sneakier cousin too, and it's easy to miss even when a set looks perfectly whole. Sometimes a cup and its saucer were never actually born together at all. They were quietly paired up later by someone trying to make an orphaned piece look complete again. Collectors call this a marriage, and it drags the price right back down, even though nothing looks obviously wrong. The tell is in the wear. Set the 2 pieces side by side and check whether the gold trim has faded to roughly the same degree on both, and whether the pattern numbers underneath actually match. 2 pieces that fit together but aged differently were never really a set to begin with, no matter how convincing they look sitting on a shelf. Sometimes the damage to a piece isn't hidden at all, it's sitting right on the surface, and what you do about it matters more than most people realize, in a way that genuinely surprised me the first time I ran into it, because it feels backward. You'd think a piece that looks freshly repaired, glued back together cleanly, touched up so you can barely see the damage, would hold on to most of its value. Restoration usually destroys it instead. A vase with a visible hairline crack, left exactly as it is, can be worth more to a serious collector than the same vase professionally repaired to look flawless. A repair changes the object permanently, and collectors want the real thing, damage and all, more than they want a version that's been altered after the fact. There's actually a simple way to check for a repair that isn't obvious to the naked eye. Certain adhesives used to glue porcelain or glass back together glow faintly under a black light, even when the repair itself is invisible in normal light. A piece that lights up in odd patches under that light has a history it isn't telling you on the surface. Fixing something can feel like the responsible thing to do. Sometimes it's the one decision you can't take back. You've probably also assumed that if something looks convincingly old, it must actually be old. That gap between looking old and being old is exactly where reproductions live, and it's wider than most people expect. Jadeite is a perfect example. The real vintage green kitchenware from decades ago has a dense, slightly uneven color to it. Modern reproductions, some of them made by companies that specifically copied the original look once it became popular again, come out thinner, brighter, almost too perfect. The same pattern shows up with Depression-era cookie jars and candy dishes, where a reproduction lid fits slightly wrong, or the glass feels noticeably lighter in your hand than the original ever did. Your test here is weight and fit. Set the lid on the base and check that it sits flush all the way around with no gaps, then heft the piece in your hand. A genuine older piece almost always feels denser than a modern copy of the same size. On its own, sitting in your cabinet, it's easy to assume old-looking automatically means old. There's a belief on the opposite end of that one too, and it might be the one that surprises people the most. You'd think the more famous or recognizable something is, the more it's worth. Often it's actually the reverse. A pattern, like Royal Albert's Old Country Roses, is instantly recognizable, deep red roses, gold trim, the exact china pattern sitting in more cabinets across this country than almost any other design ever made. More than 150 million pieces were produced, and that's precisely why an ordinary piece is only worth $15 to $50. Everyone already has one. Fame isn't scarcity. Sometimes the most recognizable object in the room is the least valuable one in it, and the plain, forgettable piece sitting right next to it is worth considerably more. The story behind that plain piece matters too, which is exactly where documentation comes in, something people consistently underrate, treating paperwork as an afterthought instead of part of the object itself. A postcard with a real postmark, a stamp, and a handwritten note on the back regularly outsells the exact same image with nothing written on it, because collectors want the story behind the object, not just the picture. A diamond with a written appraisal and a certified report has never once sold for less than the same stone without paperwork, and the gap between those two sales can run into thousands of dollars on an otherwise identical stone. Old letters, receipts, and family records tucked in with an item work the same way, turning a plain object into evidence of exactly where it's been and who it belonged to. Even a simple note, a name and a date written on the bottom of a box, can be the one detail that convinces a buyer the story is real. That piece of paper isn't proof for your own peace of mind. It's part of what someone else is actually paying for. Color works the same quiet way, feeling like the smallest detail on this whole list while doing some of the most work of any of them. The exact same object, made by the exact same company in the exact same year, can be worth 10 times more or 10 times less, depending entirely on which color it happened to come in. Certain Depression glass patterns in cobalt blue sell for hundreds of dollars, while the common pink and green versions sit at 10 or 20. Elvis Presley's Moody Blue album is worth about $6 on the blue vinyl everyone assumes is rare, and worth $500 to $1,000 on any other color, because millions were pressed in blue and almost none in anything else. So before you assume a color is special, Compare it honestly against every other piece you've seen in that exact pattern. If you've come across 5 of the same object and they were all the same shade, that shade is the common one, not the rare one. Color isn't decoration here. It's frequently the entire difference between common and rare. And the last one is the hardest to accept, because it means nothing on this list is permanent. You'd assume once something is established as valuable or established as worthless, that stays true. Markets shift, sometimes fast, sometimes for reasons that have nothing to do with the object itself. Lab-grown diamonds flooding the market recently made natural stones, especially older ones with real history behind them, considerably more desirable by comparison than they were just a few years ago. Jadeite tells the same story from the opposite direction. It sat around as cheap, unwanted kitchenware for decades until one very public collector started displaying it on television, and prices on certain rare pieces climbed into the thousands almost overnight. What's sitting in your house right now, dismissed as ordinary, might simply be waiting for the market to catch up to it, the same way my husband is still waiting for skinny ties to come back so his closet finally makes sense again. Put those 9 things together, and you stop seeing objects the way you were taught to see them, as old or new, pretty or plain, familiar or strange. You start seeing them as a small collection of facts waiting to be checked, one at a time, a mark, a color, whether the set is whole and whether it was ever really a set at all, whether it's been touched, whether there's paper to back it up. None of that requires an expert. It just requires actually looking instead of assuming, which is the one habit every single item on this list comes back to in the end. So before you decide anything in your house is too ordinary to matter, take the extra minute and check it against what you now know. Tell me down in the comments which one of these caught you off guard the most, because I have a feeling it's not going to be the same answer twice. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on notifications, because there's another one of these coming soon, and you're going to want to look at your own house differently before it does.